This church is only for rich people. Poor people are not allowed here.
Last Sunday morning, a 72-year-old woman collapsed and died on the steps of Ascending City Church. She wasn't having a heart attack. She wasn't sick. She died from shock and heartbreak after being physically pushed down the stairs by security guards who told her she was too poor to enter God's house. The worst part. There were over 300 young people standing there with their phones out, recording her fall, and not a single person helped her. Instead, they posted the video on TikTok with laughing emojis and comments like, "She should have dressed better," and "Broke people always causing drama." That video got 4 million views before it was taken down. The woman's name was Margaret. She had walked 6 miles in worn-out shoes just to worship God one last time before her cancer treatment started. She never made it inside. She died on cold concrete steps while rich kids stepped over her body to get their $20 lattes. This is not a made-up story. This is what happens every single Sunday at Ascending City Church. And what I'm about to tell you is so dark, so twisted, so evil that you won't believe it's real. But it is. Every single word of it is real. Every Sunday morning at exactly 9:45 a.m., the streets around Ascending City Church transform into something that looks like a red carpet event at the Grammys. Luxury cars line up for blocks: Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Range Rovers, Mercedes G-Wagons, all shining under the sun like expensive jewelry. Young people step out wearing clothes that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Gucci bags, Prada shoes, diamond watches, designer sunglasses. The girls look like Instagram models with perfect makeup and flowing hair. The guys look like they just finished a photo shoot for a fashion magazine. Everyone has their phones out, recording everything, taking selfies, posting stories with captions like "blessed and highly favored" and "God's favorite child." The bass from the music inside the church is so loud it shakes the ground. Smoke machines pump colored fog into the air. Laser lights shoot through the windows. This is not your grandmother's church. This is Ascending City Church, and if you're not rich, you're not welcome. At the main entrance, there are 10 security guards dressed in all black like Secret Service agents. They wear earpieces and sunglasses even though they're indoors. Their job is not to protect the church, their job is to filter out the wrong kind of people. Anyone who arrives in an old car gets stopped at the parking lot entrance. Anyone wearing cheap clothes gets stopped at the door. It happens every single Sunday, but nobody talks about it. People pretend not to see. One Sunday morning, a single mother arrives with her 2 small children. She's wearing her best dress, but it's old and faded. Her shoes are worn out. Her children are clean but their clothes are clearly hand-me-downs. She heard about Ascending City Church on social media and thought maybe, just maybe, this church could give her hope. She walks toward the entrance with her children holding her hands. Before she even reaches the door, a security guard steps in front of her. He doesn't say hello. He doesn't smile. He just looks her up and down like she's a piece of trash on the sidewalk. He says, "This is a private service. Members only." The woman looks confused. She says, "But I want to become a member. I want to worship God." The security guard laughs, actually laughs in her face. He says, "Lady, look around. Do you see anyone dressed like you? This church is for winners, for blessed people, for those who have favor. If you're struggling, it means God hasn't chosen you. Try the community church on 5th Street. They accept anyone." The woman's face crumbles. Her children look up at their mother, confused, wondering why the man is being mean. She turns around and walks away, tears running down her face. Nobody stops her. Nobody apologizes. The young rich people walking past her don't even notice she exists. They are too busy taking videos of themselves. Inside the church, it looks like a nightclub designed by a tech billionaire. The ceiling is covered with LED lights that change colors with the music. There are giant screens everywhere showing close-up shots of the worship band and the congregation. The seats are not regular church pews, they are luxury theater-style chairs with cup holders and phone charging ports. In the back, there's a full coffee bar serving $20 lattes with the church logo in the foam. There's a merchandise table selling church-branded hoodies for $200, hats for $75, and Bibles covered in designer fabric for $300. Everything is for sale. Everything is expensive. The worship band has at least 30 people on stage, multiple drummers, guitarists, keyboard players, a full horn section, backup singers wearing matching designer outfits. The music is incredibly loud, the kind of loud that makes your heart beat differently. The bass is so heavy you can feel it in your bones. The lead singer screams into the microphone like he's at a rock concert, and the crowd goes absolutely insane. Young people are jumping, crying, running down the aisles, speaking in tongues, falling on the floor. Some are crowd surfing during the worship songs. Others are recording everything for TikTok, trying to go viral with their worship moment. The energy is electric, wild, almost violent. It feels powerful, but there's something dark underneath it all, something that feels more like manipulation than genuine worship. Then Pastor Darius King walks onto the stage, and the entire building erupts like a bomb of excitement went off. This man is 38 years old and looks like he was carved by angels. He's tall, with perfect dark skin, a sharp jawline, white teeth that shine like diamonds, and eyes that look through you rather than at you. He's wearing a custom black suit that probably cost $15,000, shoes that shine like mirrors, and a watch covered in so many diamonds it looks like a small galaxy on his wrist. His hair is perfectly shaped, his beard is perfectly trimmed. He moves like a panther, smooth and dangerous. When he smiles, the crowd screams. When he raises his hand, everyone goes silent immediately. He has total control, complete power over every person in that room. He stands at the microphone, letting the silence build, letting the tension grow. Then he speaks, and his voice is like thunder mixed with honey, powerful but smooth. He says, "Good morning to my millionaires, my business owners, my future CEOs, my wealthy generation." The crowd explodes again. He continues, "I don't greet broke people because broke people don't exist in this church. Poverty is not allowed here. Struggle is not allowed here. If you're here, it means God has chosen you for wealth, for power, for dominance." People are crying, shouting, agreeing with every word. He paces the stage like a lion, his voice getting louder and more intense. He says, "Some of you drove here in luxury cars. That's not luck, that's favor. Some of you are wearing clothes that cost thousands of dollars. That's not vanity, that's blessing. God doesn't want you humble. God doesn't want you meek. God wants you rich, powerful, and feared." The crowd loses their minds, jumping and screaming. Not once does Pastor Darius mention love, kindness, helping the poor, or serving others. Everything is about money, status, power, and being better than everyone else. This is his message every single week, and people are addicted to it. Pastor Darius King did not become powerful by accident. Behind the expensive suit and the $1 million smile is a story that most people in Ascending City Church don't know and would never believe. 10 years ago, Darius was nobody. He grew up poor in a broken family, dropped out of college, and spent his 20s jumping from one failed business idea to another. He was desperate, angry, and willing to do anything for money. One night, he was at a private poker game in the back room of a luxury hotel, trying to win money he didn't have by gambling with cards. He lost everything. $15,000 gone in one night. He couldn't pay. The men running the game were not regular gamblers, they were members of something called the Circle, a secret organization of businessmen, politicians, and criminals who controlled money and power in the city. They told Darius he had two choices: he could have his legs broken and be thrown in the river, or he could work for them. Darius, terrified and desperate, chose to walk. The circle had a very specific plan for Darius. They told him, "We don't need another businessman or politician. We have hundreds of those. What we need is a pastor." Darius laughed at first. He said, "I'm not religious. I don't even believe in God." The leader of the circle, an old man named Victor Castellano who had cold grey eyes and a voice like gravel, smiled and said, "Perfect. The best pastors are the ones who don't believe. Religion is just a tool, boy. It's the greatest control system ever invented. People will give you their money, their trust, their souls, and they'll thank you for taking it. We're going to make you a pastor, and you're going to build us an empire." They spent 6 months training him. They taught him how to speak, how to move, how to smile, how to manipulate emotions. They hired acting coaches, voice trainers, and psychologists who specialized in crowd control. They taught him what words trigger emotional responses, how to make people feel special while also making them feel worthless, how to create dependency. They gave him a script, not a word-for-word script, but a framework of ideas. Always talk about wealth, never mention sacrifice, make people compete with each other, reject the poor publicly to make the rich feel superior, create exclusivity, make them believe they are chosen. Darius learned fast. He was a natural manipulator, and he discovered he loved the power. The circle gave him everything he needed to start Ascending City Church. They bought the building, a former concert venue in the heart of the city. They gave him $5 million for renovations, turning it into the nightclub-style church it is today. They hired the worship band, the media team, the security, everything. They created social media accounts for him and bought fake followers to make him look popular. They paid influencers to attend the church and post about it, creating artificial hype. Within 6 months, Ascending City Church went from 0 to 5,000 members. Within a year, it had 15,000 members. Now, 3 years later, it has 40,000 members and brings in over $3 million every month. But Pastor Darius doesn't keep that money. Every single dollar goes straight to the circle. They pay him a salary, a generous one, enough to afford his luxury lifestyle, but he owns nothing. The cars he drives belong to the circle. The house he lives in belongs to the circle. Even the clothes on his back are paid for by the circle. He is not a pastor. He is an employee. A very expensive, very controlled employee. Every Monday night, when the church is closed and dark, Pastor Darius has a meeting he cannot miss. In the basement of Ascending City Church, there is a room that doesn't appear on any building plans. You access it through a hidden door behind the baptism pool. Down a concrete staircase, through a hallway with no windows, there is a large room with a long table. This is where the circle meets. 12 men sit around that table, businessmen who own half the city, politicians who make the laws, judges who control the courts, and criminals who run everything else. Victor Castellano sits at the head of the table, old and powerful, smoking expensive cigars and drinking whiskey that cost more than a car. Pastor Darius sits at the other end, and he is the only one who looks nervous. Every week, Victor asks the same question: how much did we make? Darius reports the numbers, tithes, offerings, special donations, merchandise sales, everything. Victor listens, calculating in his head. If the numbers are good, he nods. If the numbers are bad, he stares at Darius with those cold grey eyes until Darius feels like he might die from fear. One Monday night, the numbers were down. The church only brought in $2 million instead of the usual $3 million. Victor didn't yell. He didn't even raise his voice. He just said quietly, "Darius, do you remember Pastor Timothy?" Darius nodded, his throat tight. Pastor Timothy was the pastor before him, the one who built a church for the circle but then tried to back out when he realized what he was part of. Victor continued, "Pastor Timothy thought he could keep some of the money for himself. He thought he could stop working for us. Do you know where Pastor Timothy is now?" Darius whispered, "No, sir." Victor smiled, cold and terrible. Nobody does. And nobody ever will. His church burned down in the middle of the night. His family moved away and changed their names. He doesn't exist anymore. Do you want to not exist, Darius? Darius shook his head quickly, sweat running down his face despite the cold basement air. Victor leaned forward and said, "Then you will bring me 3.5 million next month. I don't care how you do it. Push them harder. Make them give more. Create a crisis, invent an emergency, do whatever you need to do. Because if you fail me, you will disappear just like Timothy. And we already have someone ready to replace you." Darius left that meeting shaking, terrified, trapped. He sold his soul for money and power, and now he couldn't buy it back. The young people who attend Ascending City Church are a special kind of dangerous. They are the children of wealthy families, trust fund babies, kids of business owners, sons and daughters of politicians and celebrities. Most of them have never worked a real job in their lives. Everything they have was given to them by parents who are too busy making money to actually raise them. These kids have unlimited credit cards, luxury cars they didn't earn, and an attitude that makes them believe they are better than everyone else. Ascending City Church doesn't correct this attitude, it feeds it, waters it, makes it grow like poison ivy. Every Sunday, Pastor Darius tells them they are chosen, special, destined for greatness. He tells them that their wealth is proof of God's favor. He tells them that poor people are poor because they lack faith, because they are cursed, because God doesn't love them as much. These young people believe every word. They walk around the city like they own it, treating service workers like slaves, looking down on anyone who doesn't wear designer clothes, mocking people who drive old cars or live in small apartments. There is a group of 6 young people who are considered the royalty of Ascending City Church. First, there is Sebastian, 23 years old, son of a billionaire real estate developer. He drives a bright red Ferrari and wears a different Rolex every day of the week. He has never had a conversation with a poor person in his entire life, and is proud of it. He once said during a church small group, "Why would I waste my time talking to broke people? Their energy is contagious. If you hang around poor people, you become poor." That's just facts. Everyone in the group agreed with him. Second, there is Anastasia, 21 years old, daughter of a famous plastic surgeon. She has had so much work done on her face that she barely looks human anymore, huge lips, tiny nose, cheekbones that jut out like knives. She treats other girls at church like competition, always making sure everyone knows her purse cost more than their rent. She has a popular YouTube channel where she does blessing hauls, showing off all the expensive things she bought that week while saying, "God is so good to me because I have strong faith." Her videos get millions of views, and thousands of young girls try to copy her lifestyle, going into debt to look blessed. Third, there is Jordan, 24 years old, son of a corrupt judge. Jordan's father has sent innocent people to prison and let guilty rich people walk free for the right price. Jordan knows this and doesn't care. He brags about it. He believes the law doesn't apply to him because his father controls the law. He's been arrested twice for drunk driving, once for assault at a nightclub, and every time his father made the charges disappear. Jordan volunteers as a youth leader at Ascending City Church, teaching teenagers about living a victorious life. Fourth, there is Priscilla, 22 years old, daughter of a megachurch pastor from another city. She grew up in church, knows all the right words to say, can quote Bible verses when she needs to, but has zero actual faith. She sees church as a networking opportunity, a place to meet other rich kids and build connections. She once told her friend group, "I don't actually care about God. But church is where the wealthy people are, so that's where I need to be." Fifth, there is Cameron, 25 years old, son of a pharmaceutical company CEO. His family made billions selling addictive pain medication that destroyed communities and killed thousands of people. Cameron thinks this is smart business. He wants to follow in his father's footsteps, seeing people as nothing more than customers to exploit. And sixth, there is Victoria, 20 years old, daughter of a fashion industry executive. She has modeled for major brands and has 3 million Instagram followers. She is beautiful on the outside but rotten on the inside. She uses her platform to promote Ascending City Church, making it look glamorous and desirable, pulling in thousands of young people who want to be like her. These six are always together, always sitting in the front row at church, always getting special treatment. Pastor Darius loves them because they bring in other wealthy young people. They have a private group chat where they share photos and videos, making fun of poor people they see on the street. They have a game they play called Spot the Broke, where they try to find people wearing cheap clothes or looking struggling, and they take secret photos and laugh at them. One Sunday after church, they were all at an expensive brunch restaurant downtown, the kind of place where a single plate of eggs cost $45. A homeless man walked past the window outside, pushing a shopping cart with his belongings. Sebastian pointed and said, "Look at that. That's what happens when you don't have faith. That's what Pastor Darius talks about, poverty is a curse." Anastasia laughed and said, "Literally so sad. Like, just believe harder. It's not that difficult." Jordan raised his glass and said, "Toast to never being like that. Toast to being blessed." They all clinked their glasses together, laughing, not seeing the cruelty in their words, not understanding that they didn't earn anything they have. The homeless man outside heard their laughter through the window. He looked at them, and his eyes were full of pain, but also something else, a kind of knowing. He shook his head slowly and walked away, pushing his cart down the street. None of them cared. None of them even thought about him again. They went back to taking photos of their food for Instagram, posting captions about being grateful and blessed, completely blind to the darkness growing in their souls. For 3 years, Ascending City Church grew bigger and richer and more powerful. Pastor Darius became famous across the country. He was invited to speak at conferences, appeared on television shows, and even wrote a book called The Wealth Mandate: Why God Wants You Rich. The book became a bestseller, not because it was good, but because the circle bought thousands of copies to make it look popular. Everything was working perfectly. The money kept flowing in. The young rich people kept coming. The poor people kept being turned away at the door. And Pastor Darius kept living in fear, knowing he was trapped in a deal he could never escape. But darkness always eventually comes to light. Evil always eventually gets exposed. And the fall of Ascending City Church came from the most unexpected place, from one of the children of privilege who finally woke up. Victoria, the fashion model with 3 million Instagram followers, started to feel something changing inside her. It started small. One night, she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about a woman she had seen that week, a woman who had been turned away from the church, crying, begging to be let in just to pray. Victoria had walked past her without a second thought, but now, lying in her bed in her luxury penthouse apartment, she couldn't stop seeing that woman's face. The next Sunday, Victoria paid attention to things she had ignored before. She watched the security guards turn away 12 different people, families, elderly people, young people wearing old clothes. She watched Pastor Darius preach about wealth and dominance, and for the first time, she didn't feel inspired. She felt disgusted. After the service, she saw Sebastian and the others laughing at a man whose car had broken down in the parking lot, mocking him for driving something so old and cheap. She didn't join in this time. She just watched them, and she realized they were monsters. Beautiful, wealthy, privileged monsters. And she was one of them. Victoria did something that shocked everyone. She started researching Pastor Darius. She hired a private investigator with her own money, telling no one what she was doing. The investigator was good at his job. Within 2 weeks, he came back with a folder full of documents, photos, and recorded conversations. He discovered the circle. He found financial records showing that every dollar given to Ascending City Church was funneled into shell companies owned by 12 men. He found evidence of money laundering, tax fraud, and connections to organized crime. He found records of 3 pastors before Darius who had disappeared mysteriously. He even found a recording of one of the Monday night basement meetings where Victor Castellano threatened Pastor Darius, telling him exactly how much money he needed to extract from the church members or he would cease to exist. Victoria sat in her apartment, reading through all of this, and she cried for the first time in years. Real tears. Not tears for a social media post, not tears for attention, but real tears of shame and grief. She realized she had been part of something evil. She had promoted a lie. She had brought thousands of people into a trap. Victoria made a decision that would cost her everything. She took all the evidence and went to a major news network. She gave them everything: documents, recordings, testimonies, photos, financial records. She went on camera herself, with her 3 million followers watching, and she confessed. She said, "My name is Victoria, and I have been lying to you. Ascending City Church is not a church. It is a criminal organization disguised as a place of worship. Pastor Darius King is not a man of God. He is a puppet controlled by dangerous men who use religion to steal money from people desperate for hope. I promoted this place. I made it look beautiful and desirable. I helped trap people in this system. And I am so sorry." The video went viral immediately. Within hours, it had 50 million views. Within a day, the police raided Ascending City Church. They arrested Pastor Darius, Victor Castellano, and 8 other members of the circle. They seized financial records, froze bank accounts, and shut down the church permanently. The building was locked and sealed. The social media accounts were deleted. Everything collapsed in one single day. The aftermath was devastating and cleansing at the same time. Pastor Darius was sentenced to 25 years in prison for fraud, money laundering, and racketeering. Victor Castellano and the other circle members received even longer sentences. The 40,000 members of Ascending City Church scattered, confused and angry. Some refused to believe the truth, saying it was all a conspiracy. Others felt betrayed and heartbroken, realizing they had been manipulated. The young rich kids like Sebastian, Anastasia, Jordan, Cameron, and Priscilla all disappeared from social media, humiliated, their families scrambling to distance themselves from the scandal. Victoria lost everything: her modeling contracts, most of her followers, her friends, her comfortable life. But she gained something more valuable: her soul back. She spent the next year volunteering at homeless shelters and community churches, using her story to warn others about fake religion and the danger of worshiping wealth instead of worshiping God. The old homeless man who had been mocked outside the brunch restaurant was found and interviewed by the news. His name was Samuel, and he had been a pastor himself 40 years ago before he lost everything helping the poor. When asked what he thought about Ascending City Church closing down, he said something that made everyone go quiet. He said, "God is not impressed by money, by buildings, by lights and music and designer clothes. God looks at the heart. And when your heart is rotten, everything else is just decoration on a tomb." His words spread across the internet, shared millions of times, a final reminder that true faith has nothing to do with wealth and everything to do with love, humility, and serving others. The empty building of Ascending City Church still stands downtown, locked and abandoned. Sometimes people walk past it and remember what it used to be: the lights, the music, the energy, the glamour. But now everyone knows what it really was underneath all that beauty: a trap, a lie, a darkness pretending to be light. And the lesson remains burned into the city's memory forever: not everyone who speaks about God actually knows God, not every church is actually holy, and the greatest evil often comes dressed in expensive clothes wearing a bright smile. Real faith is not loud. It is not flashy. It does not reject the poor or worship money. Real faith is quiet, humble, and sees every human being as valuable. That is the truth that Ascending City Church tried to destroy. But truth cannot be destroyed. It can be buried for a while, but it always finds its way back to the surface.